As a drama creator, I think it's fair to say this isn't the easiest path online. Plenty of people go into gaming, vlogs, or whatever else, and those communities usually coexist pretty peacefully. Drama, though, is a different game entirely. It's a cutthroat industry. Your whole channel depends on talking about the downfall of others, and if you get anything majorly wrong, the community will tear you apart. This kind of scrutiny is exactly what hit Lewis McClung, a drama creator who rose fast and fell even faster. In 2024, he had one of his best years ever, growing to over 300,000 subscribers. But a disastrous attempt to expose another creator brought everything crashing down. Lewis generally covered TikTok and YouTube drama, usually from a left-leaning, progressive perspective, but his downfall was less to do with politics and more to do with his horrific research, the wild conclusions he drew, and his grandiose demeanor built on all of that. So what made Lewis tick, and why did his audience stop trusting him? Alright, so normally this is the part of the video where I go over the person's history and what they did before YouTube, but with Lewis McClung there's barely anything to work with, just some Instagram posts of him playing guitar, posing like a boy and hitting the gym. Props to him though, he looks healthier than 90% of YouTubers, but if we're doing a Lewis McClung video, there's only one place to start. To understand Lewis, it's best to start with his biggest drama, and arguably his biggest screw-up. People show their true colours when their back's against the wall, and Lewis's video was the first domino that eventually unravelled his whole career. This whole situation starts with the downfall of I'm Alex, a British commentator with around 2 million subscribers. Everyone involved in the story used to orbit Alex in some way. Either they were directly connected to him, or they covered the same kind of topics. But this balanced ecosystem completely fell apart when Alex's ex-girlfriend Alice Hez exposed him. She posted a mountain of DMs and recordings showing he was an abusive partner, including an infamous clip where he threatens to smash her head in with a brick. Alex was subsequently shunned and disappeared from the internet. No update, no statement, nothing. After 6 months of silence, people got curious. Alex was no stranger to controversies that had entirely upended his whole career. Surely he was doing something behind the scenes, talking to someone or working on some secret channel. And that suspicion eventually fell on Jesse, also known as DankyJabo, a former editor of Alex who had built his own channel afterward. One person was suspicious of DankyJabo and noticed that he still followed Alex on Instagram. This led to a confrontation that Jesse just shrugged off. So this person then went to another creator, Cataclysm, who tried to confront Jesse privately. When he didn't act the way Katie wanted him to, she then went public with this information, and Lewis McClung would pick up this emerging drama and decided to jump into the story with his own video. Let's have a look and get a taste for what we're in for.
Welcome back, members of the audience, to just a delightful show, one of my favorites, You Reap What You Sow. And today, there's a case that needs to be cracked by yours truly, Detective McClung. On the case.
Yeah, it's one of those videos.
This is a situation in the dark, a feud between multiple people that Jesse, aka DankyJabo or DankyJabo, has gotten dragged into because of his own idiotic decisions. The accusations against DankyJabo, aka Jesse, go as follows: lying to your audience, using hateful, derogatory speech towards women, silencing those who are against you, and lying to and manipulating your audience, those who hold you as sanctity. Honestly, your audience is literally all you have as a YouTuber. That's it. That's all you have. And to lie to them, to manipulate them, to avoid the truth, maybe not so much lie, but to silence the truth, it might as well be lying.
Sorry for the time skip, I just wanted to spare you from one of the key traits of Lewis's videos, spending the first few minutes giving us a kindergarten level TED talk, this time about emotional connections and why lying is bad. This is a hallmark of a lot of his videos where he kind of just has to explain the basic building blocks. This isn't unique, people have done this before, including me, but not to such an extent that it just goes on and on and on. When he finally gets to his evidence, Lewis starts building a case that Jesse and Alex are secretly connected, because their thumbnails look similar.
DankyJabo just so happened to be an editor for I'm Alex, or at least one of his editors at some point in time. You can even tell the blatant mentoring through the exact same thumbnail design. They use the exact same thumbnail design. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just more proof that he mentored him or taught him his ways. This apparently made him feel as though he owed Alex some gratitude. If you ask me, that sounds like you're willingly let somebody manipulate you, but that might just be me.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of mentorship Lewis thinks is required to make a thumbnail with a face, another face, and yellow text. Anyone with Photoshop and 5 minutes could copy that format. In fact, tons of creators copy each other's thumbnails. But apparently in Lewis's mind, that means Jesse was mentored and feels indebted to Alex. There isn't a single piece of proof for this. Is it possible that Jesse's work experience influenced his videos? Yeah, absolutely. But to draw a conclusion that he's somehow I'm Alex's little apprentice off nothing is stupid. It's Lewis essentially guessing and treating his guesses like facts.
Apparently, and still now, Jesse followed and still follows I'm Alex on Instagram. This is important because one of Alice's friends decided to reach out to him and ask why, if it was an accident, if he meant to unfollow him, or if he just didn't know what was going on, which was unlikely and is still unlikely and is very impossible now. Is there any reason you still follow and work for an abusive piece of shit? They're talking about Alex, and there's nobody else they could be talking about. I'm sorry, mate. I'll unfollow the annoying orange right now. So you defend abusers. I'm Alex, and work for them. And that means they said it there. That means you can't ignore it. I would never defend or support the annoying orange. He gaslights all the fruit in the kitchen. How dare you accuse me of such a thing? What he did is he made a joke out of a woman's abuse and also the person who he knew and worked with, and he ignored that and instead made a joke out of this. This pissed off a lot of people.
Alright, pause. It's at this point where the allegations, if you can call them that, start to roll in. And if you haven't seen this video before, you may be starting to put the pieces together. This is some of the dumbest stuff I've ever seen. For most people, it's clear why DankyJabo isn't taking this seriously. It's over following someone on Instagram, someone who's been inactive for 6 months. They're acting as if Jesse's promoting Alex, when this literally means nothing in the grander scheme of things. It's also clear this claim isn't made in good faith, and you can tell from how much smoke this person comes in with. I get it, I'm Alex did some very bad things. Me and you both, we read the document. But we're doing all this over an Instagram follow, and this message is so loaded to imply that Jesse is somehow complicit with Alex's abuse. All deferred from a follow.
And the problem isn't that he's making this content. The problem is he's making this content, and then this is how he actually treats a case that he is involved with, involving the abuse of a woman. Do you not see the problem there?
Are you dense? This would be a fair point if this was Alice Hez coming to him about her abuse. Yes, of course that makes sense. That's someone who's come out about a harrowing experience. But it's not that. Jesse isn't making a joke out of Alice's abuse. He's making a joke out of this person's dumbass request. Keep in mind this is still over an Instagram follow over a guy who hasn't been active for 6 months, and neither of these two have any evidence that could lead to them still working together.
Do you not see the problem there? I mean, I'm sure you see the problem, that's why you're ignoring it and suppressing anybody who talks about it, like other YouTubers who are in that sphere and who are hearing about it through people like Cataclysm. But Cataclysm was approached by Jesse not too long ago. I think it was also about 5 to 6 months ago when she was approached by Jesse, and Jesse wanted to talk with her, okay? They made similar content, they had similar subcounts, this is her words. And so he asked to call her, which, if you ask me, calling people has a stigma around it for a reason. You can just text people, man. If there's no reason to call, like if it's not urgent or anything, there shouldn't be any reason.
What the hell am I listening to? So Lewis then argues Jesse is suppressing the allegations by ignoring them. As usual, no specifics on who he's ignoring from, just some random nameless YouTubers. He also alludes to requesting a private call as intimidating or threatening. How? I can only assume these two people either have a crippling anxiety to the point they struggle to order pizza over the phone, or this is a stupid exaggeration to make Jesse seem worse. And considering Lewis later publicly challenges Jesse to an interview, I'm gonna go with exaggeration.
So this is my proposition to you, you nuance-lacking goblin. Come on my show. Come on here. I will interview you unbiasedly. There was some kind of air of superiority complex while they were talking. For lack of a better term, he mansplained how to be a better YouTuber to Cataclysm for like 2.5 hours. And then, at the end of those 2 hours, apparently Cataclysm jumped on the opportunity to ask him why he said the annoying orange bull, into which he hung up, ran away, and unfollowed her. And later, from a couple weeks to a couple months after that, they had a text conversation that I would just love to, I'd love to talk about. Bro, I'm trying to be fair here. Can we call real quick? I know why you want to call. You don't want it to be in text message so that she can't screenshot it, so that she can't prove to the world that you might not do as you preach. You sly bastard. You thought you could just hide around being kind of a quirky, weird dude. You know, somebody you might just call because they don't like the text. No, 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 no. You don't want the chance of there being receipts out there. That's even more weird. That's even worse.
Has this guy heard of OBS before? How do you think Alice Hez recorded all those videos of I'm Alex?
Oh my god. That's even worse, dude. You can't just... I'm glad I pieced that together because I don't think anybody's made that point yet. Yeah, Detective Louis McClung,
I'm glad this guy had the foresight to make a terrible point and then glaze himself. If Detective McClung is on your case, I'm sorry to say, your murderer's getting away. Alright, it's not happening. No one's getting caught. No one's being put in jail. It's over.
Right now I can't, but I'll text you. Okay, oh good. Yeah, my bad for not responding. I just genuinely got caught up. But to be honest, recently I've found it kinda just want to do YouTube for myself and stay away from a lot of the drama side of things. You're a drama YouTuber. What the are you talking about? To be honest, I only unfollowed because I noticed you unfollowed me. I thought that was fair enough from you. According to Cataclysm, she hadn't unfollowed him. I don't know if she has now, but apparently back then she hadn't.
Okay, so through all these clips, all I've heard is Louis taking Cataclysm's side, and the only evidence that we have is something that directly contradicts a part of Cataclysm's claim, and it's really clear whose side this guy is on.
Police? Bro, I was trying to tell you that the screenshot of the annoying orange stuff, is you blatantly mocking abuse. And you came to me, out of all people who have which you clearly had, been on my channel, you'd realize I've been abused too. I'm sorry you've been through that, Katie. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's not my place, okay? As somebody who hasn't been abused in a relationship, I will not comment on that. But what I will comment on is that, yeah, that's a little stupid of you, you know? To come to somebody and be like, I know how to YouTube better than you. You should ask me questions and we should, like, call and stuff. Right, well, there's no hard feelings on my end. I'm just going to put an end to this because it's making me uncomfy. Uncomfy? Really? How about you put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's been abused? Pretty sure that'll be pretty uncomfy, actually.
Amazing. So Katie brings up her experience as an abuse survivor to kind of have a leg up on Jesse, and then Louis takes that and weaponizes it against him to guilt him into concession. I really don't have to repeat myself, but this all being over a joke about the annoying orange and an Instagram follow is absurd and incredibly hypersensitive. Ironically, it's also really out of touch. Jesse and Katie are not close friends, so of course someone would be uncomfortable if they were getting confronted and the other person brought up their abuse. He obviously doesn't think the joke is a big deal, which it isn't, but he also understandably doesn't want to argue against an abuse survivor. Thankfully, the allegations part of the video is now over. I hope you've all taken away some seriously heinous information about DankyJabo. And we've now hit the classic segment of every bad commentary hit piece, digging up edgy jokes.
But there are a bunch of clips from his actual literal videos, past or new, that he says just some f***ing weird things in.
Speaking of out, Gloria from Madagascar is an annoying whose lines consist only of men and ogling men and having sex with men.
Oh my god, you can't just suppress your hate for women for 1 second? Hey, who made that rule? Who made that like a normal thing that we all agree with? Oh, that's right, nobody did. That's just a weird thing to say. Or maybe this one about Lola Bunny. Just hold on. Just wait till the end of the clip. Just wait, just give it a second.
Her design is interesting to look at and is animated very impressively in the original Space Jam, especially for the time. And whilst her character at its core is a simple love interest, at least she had a character. In the god-awful sequel, she looks like and I'm not talking about her tits being smaller. I mean her design as a whole is horrendously ugly and boring to look at.
Her what? Oh, God! Sorry, I had to, you know, get that out. You understand. Why must you feel as though you have to make these remarks, okay? I don't understand why you feel you need to say this.
Because it's a joke. It's very obvious that these are meant to be jokes. It's very clear that Louis is only bringing this up just to back up his incredibly weak claim. And never mind that Louis made a joke about women in Hollywood being in this same video.
Oh, you gave me my career, but you're going to exploit me for something because of it? Yes, because you owe me. Every woman in Hollywood ever.
Apparently his jokes are fine. Jesse's? Evidence of a corrupt soul.
That's not good, but more recently, do you know what he said?
mannerisms. He's so sassy. To all the girls watching this who like sassy men, if this doesn't get your beef curtains in a twist, then I don't know what will.
So I've been informed that that phrase is a derogatory one rooted in racism and misogyny. I don't know if he knows that, but the only way you would hear this phrase is apparently through pornography or adult media or anything sexualizing women. Because I, personally, haven't actually heard that terminology ever, okay? I have never heard those words used to describe female genitalia, and apparently that was the point. What? Dude, you can't—
Dude, you can't say that, man. Listen, if I'm coming across as a I get it. If you got issues with any of these comments, any of these jokes, fine. More power to you. But after throwing everything at the wall, I simply do not believe that Lewis is bringing this up in good faith. Also, since when was the word beef curtains racist? Where did race come into it? Better yet, Lewis, what race would that apply to? I'm just curious.
It's important to know that he also censors in different ways. Like, for instance, apparently at the start of one of his videos, he said to his audience to comment down below as if he had done something terrible, because Cataclysm had just released in stories on her Instagram about what he was saying and what he was doing. So to cover it up, he would censor those like Cataclysm who were actually talking about what he was actually doing, and then he would just ignore anything else that seemed like it would actually call him out because everybody else was just following what he asked them to do, which is borderline manipulative and honestly insane.
Again, is there any proof that these two events were related? Is there any context about the video provided? Maybe it's something about the subject of the video itself? Well, Lewis never tells us. Doesn't even tell us the date, or the video, or the clip. Just a random comment as evidence. So that's basically the video. Over these 20 minutes or so, we've pretty accurately established that this is just garbage. It's a blatant hit piece built on assumptions, exaggerations, missing context, and conclusions that don't follow from the evidence. The most you could say is that this guy's been a bit of a dick. This really did not need a video and a whole accusation that he's some lying, silencing misogynist. From everything I've been shown, there is just not enough evidence for that. Lewis has to stretch the truth, take a Cataclysm side on everything, and view Jesse in the worst light possible at all times to get within the boundaries of his claim. It's a video made with a total disconnect from reality.
Let me be Lewis McClung here for a second, okay? Not Detective Lewis. Do you know what it feels like to see all of these commentary YouTubers dropping like flies? It worries me. Because, personally, I don't have any skeletons in my closet. I've had a very boring life, okay? I've been a straight-edge kid. I've been I was in one musical. I didn't have many friends. I kind of just watched shows, stayed inside, and didn't shower enough as a child. I was a very cloistered individual. Like, I didn't do anything, okay? But that kind of makes me the perfect YouTuber in a way, even though my life kind of sucked and I suffered with a lot of depression because of it. But somehow I still worry that I'm going to be involved with some person and they're going to turn out to be terrible. I only wish what he has brought on himself. Until you clarify whether or not you support an abuser, while also covering almost entirely abusive content, I am sending you directly straight into the fiery, burning layers of loser hell. You will stay there until you confess to what you have done.
And despite all this, his video was received very well, and it pulled nearly 300,000 views. The DankyJabo channel started bleeding subscribers, his comments were flooded, and he had to pause his entire upload schedule. On January 11th, DankyJabo uploaded a 51-minute video basically tearing Lewis and Katie's entire narrative apart. He explained that his relationship with Alex was strictly business, and showed how both Lewis and Katie were stretching nothing into evidence. He also pointed out that the same people criticizing him were guilty of the exact things they claimed were suspicious. For example, both Cataclysm and Jake Baz, another of his critics, also used the same thumbnail style as Alex. And Alice Hez, whose abuse was brought up as emotional leverage against Jesse, followed Lewis Buchan, another YouTuber Cataclysm had called out in the past. This is all to show that policing follows is completely pointless. Another thing Lewis and Katie conveniently left out, the person who originally confronted Jesse about following Alex wasn't a friend, colleague, or anyone he knew. It was just some random stranger messaging him out of nowhere. Of course he wasn't going to respond with some formal PR statement. Jesse also goes off on Lewis for saying he was somehow trying to flirt with Cataclysm. I didn't even think about including this clip before, but after seeing Jesse's response, it's honestly insane that Lewis even suggested that. There's literally zero indication from any of the DMs. It's just another baseless reach thrown in to make Jesse look bad.
You should ask me questions and we should like call and stuff. Honestly, it sounds like he was trying to like flirt. I don't know. I don't want to assume or presume. He might have been
I've been in a relationship now for 2 years. My girlfriend was literally in the room with me as I was on call with Katie, who is also in a relationship. To tell your audience that I might have been trying to flirt with Cataclysm based on absolutely nothing is so deeply inappropriate that I can barely believe you thought this would be a good idea to put in your video. Not only is it obviously completely false, but much like everything else in this video, it's based on nothing but your own ignorant and uneducated assumptions. I'm very confused as to why the two of you are acting as though you know me personally. We were never friends, I don't know you, and you definitely don't know me.
Regarding the clips brought up about him, Jesse brings up how pointless their arguments are, and accentuates how these two people are trying to educate him about racism. Jesse would also bring up the latent hypocrisy in Lewis scolding him for jokes he made 3 years ago when Lewis had been covering incredibly serious topics and starting them off with incredibly unserious edits.
It's incredibly hypocritical of you to claim that I lack the nuance to run my channel and that you have all the nuance, class, decency, empathy, and intelligence necessary to put yourself in the shoes of others and cover whatever topics you like. Where exactly was the nuance when you started off your videos on accusations and attempted murder with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure edits? Couple of meaningless jokes that I made 3 years ago somehow prove that I'm a raging misogynist and I don't deserve a career. But you're able to start your video off on accusations like this, and that's all fine and dandy.
Following Jesse's video, Lewis responded in probably the worst way imaginable. A live stream doing a blind reaction to it. And keep in mind, this was Lewis's first livestream ever. Why he thought this was the best strategy is beyond me, but it went exactly as you'd expect. With no chat moderators, the entire chat of 3,000 people devolved into chaos. Lewis had to start modding random channel members on the fly. Notable YouTubers like FPS Diesel and AugieRFC were sending donations critical of him, which he didn't even read. Mods were deleting tons of comments and even super chats. And then there's the actual stream. For 2.5 hours, Lewis is completely outmatched and visibly shaken. He forgets things he said in his own video, including the jokes where he implied Jesse hates women. He keeps hiding behind it was just a joke, even though the context of his video makes his intentions painfully obvious. And to make things worse, Cataclysm posted a public apology mid-stream, which only highlights how flimsy their entire narrative was. At least it's nice to know our favorite 300k commentator operates under the Salem Witch Trials rulebook, guilty until proven innocent.
You guys are angry, rightfully so, at either or, okay? If you're mad at me, it's totally understandable, but just remember that it was all allegations in the first place, and if nobody talked about it, you guys would have never known that he was innocent, if he is. There's no proof yet.
Lewis says he treated everything as alleged, but did he actually believe that? His tone in the original video is blatantly biased against Jesse. There's nothing neutral about it. Throughout the stream, Lewis is clearly panicking, staying silent, staring at his phone, and obviously sending frantic messages. Then comes one of the worst moments of this entire stream. Lewis suddenly announces mid-stream that he's been sent bad screenshots about Jesse from 3 years ago. No details, no context, no evidence, just a vague threat.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna look at something really quick. So, where are these messages? Hold on. I have screenshots that somebody sent me. There's no proof, but I do have screenshots that somebody sent me. Okay, so Jesse is 21. He's a year older than I am. Yes, I am a baby. There is messages out there. Hold on, let me collect myself. I am not gonna show you guys these. I'm going to talk to Mr. Jabo first. How about that? I'll take his advice, and we will talk. And I'm gonna ask him about these screenshots I have between him and another person that are very concerning. Okay, I'm not gonna show you guys first. These could, if they are not real, if they are they could be life ruining. So I'm not gonna show them.
You cannot convince me this wasn't a desperate last-minute bargaining chip, maybe some sort of blackmail to claw back some credibility. The fact that he thought he could casually bring up another unverified claim about Jesse after everything that had just happened is insane. By the end of the stream, Lewis's entire chat had turned on him. Hard. He even refused to apologize, only saying he was investigating further. Then he took down the stream, then the video, then he uploaded a half-baked apology.
I'm really sorry. To Jesse, to my audience, to his, to whoever overlaps. I'm sorry for any harm I caused by spreading my ideas as fact. I apologize to all my fans that I hurt by misplacing your trust. And I apologize to everyone who took my word as fact and then acted upon it, and now feels bad about doing so. I will learn from this like there is no tomorrow, and grow from this instead of letting it become a pattern. I was so dead set on sticking to my upload schedule that I would be negligent of a story and allowing it to grow so that I could then cover it in good faith. From now on, I will only upload videos on subjects where I take the ample time to find proof, as diligently and as long as it takes for me to do so. I will learn, and I will grow.
In the coming days, Lewis would be the subject of mockery from many because of the way he handled this whole situation. It was definitely harsh, but for a guy well above 300,000 subscribers making such an egregious video, it was fully deserved. It's hard to tell whether the guy's just an idiot or entirely malicious from the way he went about some of these claims. But Lewis was young, relatively new to the platform, this was something he'd apologized for, and now he'd need to go. He didn't learn, did he? He didn't learn. He didn't learn at all. The very next video that Lewis made was a 40-minute retrospective talking about the problems of the Minecraft YouTuber dream. This in itself isn't a bad idea. Pivot to a more popular topic, hopefully something that can rope your audience back in. But rather than hit on the obvious points, Lewis made the terrible decision to cover serious allegations again, and it wasn't in a good way. During his video, he decided to tackle the debunked allegations against Dream, and the whole segment really feels like he wants Dream to be guilty.
Dream himself even clarified that a lot of messages and receipts people showed were him. So you might be thinking, if it looks like grooming and he admits it was him, wasn't it? Before we get to whether it is or it isn't, first, the definition of grooming never states that it has to be a child. Somebody who uses their power, their presence, their personality to garner some kind of romantic or sexual connection with somebody. Or even maybe sometimes just get things from them, physical things like property. It depends. And
what? What? This is the broadest definition of grooming I've ever heard. By this definition, everyone is groomed.
It quite literally does say in the definition here, the action of attempting to form a relationship with a child.
It is true that adults can be groomed, but normally that is outside of like a normal sexual dynamic. Or the adult is intellectually disabled in some way. But I don't agree with this narrative that grooming can literally be anything. Like, that's ridiculous.
that all of these women, all of these younger women, were 18 when he talked to them. Or if they weren't, he was only friendly and not strange. No. If you ask me, that doesn't clear his name. Even if they're 18, like I just said, doesn't mean you can't groom them into being into you, okay?
Where's the grooming then? What grooming? What specifically is grooming about that? You need to actually point out what the problematic behavior is specifically. You can't just go, well, they could have groomed them into it. Where's the grooming?
Did you learn nothing from the DankyJabo bull? What did you learn here? This wouldn't be grooming. You don't even know what grooming is.
But apparently, the person who posted this said that it was just cringy, just so cringy and bad. He even sent pictures of his house. This is weird.
What? No, it's not. It's not even weird.
They need to get away to stop saying weird. Everything is weird. That's weird? What are you talking about?
Everybody that flirts and has sexual conversations in private, it's always weird.
He got a legal team involved. He had an entire 1-hour video up on his channel. I think he still does. It cleared his name almost entirely. He got a bunch of people involved to make sure that he cleared his name.
Dude, you just said that he's innocent, but in the same breath, you also said that you can groom someone who is an adult.
You've just remade some of the claims that were made that video debunked.
Dream didn't groom anybody, or at least we don't have any evidence of it, or he covered it all up. And I'm not saying that in bad faith. That happens all the time, okay?
You know what's interesting? I just got a text message from a girl that says that Lewis violently her.
But just remember that it was all allegations in the first place. And if nobody talked about it, you guys would have never known that he was innocent. He covered it all up. And I'm not saying that in bad faith. That happens all the time, okay? I'm not putting on a freaking tinfoil hat like he likes to claim people do.
Then why even, imply that? Why say he disproved it in the same breath as saying he may have covered it up? Like, you say it with such, oh, man, he wasn't a pedophile. Well, guess I can't call him a pedophile. He may have covered it up, though, which happens all the time. Why say that?
Because though I have defended Dream from a lot of things in this video,
when Wait, I'm sorry. Was this supposed to be a defense video?
It's very evident that this guy wants Dream to be guilty, but due to technicality he can't, and so he has to technically say these allegations are false. Either that or he has no spine and couldn't fathom the idea of actually having to argue his point. Case in point, here's him admitting to taking his George Not Found video down because the public opinion had shifted.
Then there was George Not Found. If you know anything about this situation, again, I had a video up on it, but I decided to get rid of it because people like Turkey Tom, or whatever he goes by, Tom Dark, I don't give a lot of people like him who like to call men soy boys and stuff like that when they defend women decided to say, yeah, but there's no proof of George Not Found being an asshole. Well, let me explain to you what happened. George...
So this isn't even the first time you've done this? You did it like a year ago and I just didn't hear about it, dude? You falsely accused someone and I apparently blew you out? If you're so confident in your side, just leave the video up, dude. Don't be a fucking coward. So what you're telling me is that on one hand, when you falsely accuse someone, you take the video down. But in your eyes, you weren't falsely accusing him. You were actually in the right, but you take the video down anyway because you're a fucking pussy. What is wrong with you? You don't believe in anything. Truly. You believe in nothing. You have no conviction. You're a fucking coward.
Whilst this video received a lot of views, mostly due to Dream's recent fight with Tommy in it, people were outraged that after apologizing, this guy had just learned nothing and given empty promises. It's almost as if the apology to DankyJabo was just for show, just for public appearances. After his Dream video, and the wave of backlash that followed, Lewis McClung took it down and went on what can only be described as an apology tour. He called up a whole roster of critics, either on stream or privately. Papa Gut, Ryan Beard, Turkey Tom, FPS Diesel, Lebrowski, basically everyone who'd made a harsh video on him. And in these call-ins, Lewis comes across as someone genuinely seeking advice. He explains his process, insists he wasn't calling Dream a groomer, and tries to show he's taking the criticism seriously. The problem is that all these interviews blend together. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. Lewis comes in extremely polite and borderline submissive, which immediately disarms the interviewer. It's awkward. These creators have roasted him for hours, but once he shows up already defeated, it suddenly feels weird to keep kicking him whilst he's down. Lewis practically self-flagellates, repeatedly saying he deserves the backlash and punishment.
I don't think it's going to be anything negative.
No, I don't. I deserve negative stuff as well, so it's okay.
Yeah, and like I know that there might be like a view differential, but it's temporary.
I deserve it, it's fine. I feel like I deserve this on many levels, so it's totally fine with me, you know? Though Tom was an ass to me, and I deserved it.
But the interview that really stood out to me was the recent one he did with Goddammit Malcolm, one of Lewis's most consistent critics. And yes, this interview is only about a month old, and yes, Lewis has changed somewhat since the DankyJabo fallout, but the pattern is still the same. And while still having to treat him with kid gloves, Malcolm gets to the inignorable core of Lewis's character, as well as the way he's come across in interviews.
You're reflexively telling me what I want to hear in saying, at the time, these were all the things that I was doing wrong. And then you're saying, these are all the things that I do now. And when I ask you specific questions about what you're doing now that's different, that, you know, directly inspire or provokes a feeling of trust in you when you say that you've changed, you tell me the exact same things that you said. You're relying on this third-party research in order to test the validity. I think that you exactly said that I would look at the common consensus to factor this in to your kind of judgment making and decision process. So you're saying all the right words, but your answers are telling me that you're doing the exact same thing. You're just fluffing it with what other people want to hear.
Malcolm directly calls Lewis a people pleaser and points out that in these previous interviews, Lewis almost infantilizes himself to avoid criticism, something that perfectly sums up how he acts whenever he's under pressure. His goal is to get the confrontation over with as quickly and painlessly as possible. It's the same way he even seems to write his videos. Malcolm even calls it speedrunning this quote-unquote growth cycle, which is honestly a great description. Lewis was jumping into this apology arc without ever really processing or understanding what he did wrong.
Being wrong is the quickest path to being right. Admitting your wrongs is the quickest path back to being a good person. Righting your wrongs, confessing your wrongs, being true to the people who support you and give you a job and a rent and a career, okay? That is what gives you anything, everything. And all you have to do is be truthful.
And that leads to a bigger question. If he didn't learn anything from the DankyJabo situation, and if the Dream video proves this wasn't where this behavior started, how long has this been going on for? The renewed interest in Lewis McClung's older content kicked off from an August 2024 video about a TikTok/Twitter artist known as Pumpkin the Gentleman. At the time, Pumpkin, an 18-year-old, was facing a wave of varying accusations. Lewis titled his video, "This TikTok artist likes kids a little too much," which gives you a good idea of where he is going. The video opens with Lewis's usual intro and him reading off a bunch of gross TikToks from random people. None of these posts are from Pumpkin, so it's a weird way to start a video supposedly focused on him. But after about a minute of filler, Lewis finally gets to the point. His first claim is that Pumpkin made sexual art on his 16+ account, exposing minors to suggestive content. Pumpkin acknowledged the criticism, apologized, and raised his content to 18+, but this was still only the start. Next, Lewis says Pumpkin posted a bulge picture when his platform was still 16+.
See, all of that is great. All of that's awesome if you haven't literally tried to justify doing these things, okay? This is the least blurred photo I could find of it, but, you know, I'm sure you can infer what's going on. This image was posted on Gentle Loser's account when it wasn't privated yet, still 16+, well-defined outline of his bulge, okay? And that's not for 16-year-olds, you 19-year-old weirdo.
This is just not true. If Lewis took some time into research, he might have found that this picture actually came from Pumpkin's 18+ NSFW account, properly warned, age-gated, and marked with an 18+ emoji in the name. Also, this tweet was deleted soon after, another thing that Lewis doesn't mention. Lewis then claims Pumpkin interacted suggestively with minors on TikTok.
Here are a couple comments of him interacting with minors, like, maybe not knowingly, but he didn't bother to check. There was this picture of him, you know, scarfing on some bread with some cream coming out of it, you know, an innuendo, if you will. Here's what a minor said. I'm not gonna read it because that's weird to me, you know, you can't make me do it. I don't wanna. But then he responded and said, "Thank you. What is wrong with you? Go to hell." Specifically loser hell, but we'll save that for later. Here's somebody saying, "Whose bread is that exactly?" A kid responds, weirdly, and then he likes the comment.
Again, there is no indication that any of these people were minors or that Pumpkin knew they were. Lewis gives the advice that maybe Pumpkin should have looked at their profiles, but even in their profiles, there's no indication of such a thing. Lewis's level of research is he looks at a TikTok screenshot and sees someone labeled with the word kid, and he's like, you know what? Must be a kid. That's it, case closed. It's over. I'm gonna call this person a pedophile. Lewis escalates by accusing Pumpkin of DMing an alleged 12-year-old with sexual jokes.
He also has an alleged conversation with somebody who is definitely a minor, but the alleged part is that they are 12. Oh, God. Oh, whoa. Okay, we're jumping from 16 all the way down the ladder to literally a baby. Thank you, Pumpkin. I weirdly want to kiss you. Raise his eyebrow. I mean, is it allowed? Sends a kissing noise. Makes out. Okay, don't talk to people like that, especially if they're 12. Grr, give me your censored out. I don't know what it is. Censored out. Bro, nah, I'm gonna be canceled and labeled as a P3DO. Running away, gassed up emoji. Yeah, buddy. I hate to break it to you. You're gonna be canceled or labeled as a P3DO anyways. Right now. You dirty creep. Ew, get the hell out. Go away. Go to prison or something. I don't know. Hike your ass somewhere else.
Now, there's a few things to address here. First of all, these DMs are true. However, this person had lied about their age and said they were 15 during this time. Pumpkin was 17 during these conversations, and there were no personal chats or phone calls. Nothing that would have obviously indicated this person was much younger than they let on. Now, I don't blame Lewis for not knowing this. However, I do blame him for his immediate jump to believing these DMs. Without the context we know now, these messages are incredibly cropped. There's no mention of this person's age. Regardless of the result, Lewis had no idea if this person was actually 12, and this was just a shot from the hip. Assuming he didn't know this message was fake, it's completely fair to include this in the video if you're speculating. My issue is that Lewis is so assertive on calling this person a groomer pedophile.
But again, he is but an example. He is but literally just me showing you that this stuff is happening all over the place, and we have to stay vigilant and diligent to see it, to call people out for it, to hold people accountable, so that the groomer summer of 2024 can go down in history and not continue to be our present.
I'm not saying that Pumpkin the Gentleman is entirely vindicated. I mean, there's a ton of other stuff out there that I need to look into. But the important part is what conclusions Lewis came to with his research. This evidence, or lack of, was enough for him to call Pumpkin a pedophile, and comparing him to people like Dr. Disrespect and Ava Chris Tyson is incredibly over the top. When the video was first posted, some people pointed out the inaccuracies in the comments, but Lewis pushed back. He even said on Twitter that he was just spreading the allegations because they were already out there. He openly admitted he spent a grand total of 4 hours researching, which honestly explains everything. But this video would go down silently, with no apology to Pumpkin the Gentleman. It took 6 more months and a bunch of videos calling him out for Lewis to finally apologize. By then, it was clear this wasn't just one sloppy video. It was part of a larger pattern of bad research and reckless conclusions. And it raises the bigger question: how did he even get to this point of 300,000 subscribers? For this entire video, we've been looking into Lewis's flaws, but we never really talked about where he came from. Every YouTuber has that big moment, the video or idea that pushes them into the mainstream. For Lewis, that moment was his video on Freckled Zelda, a TikTok cosplayer with around 7 million followers. Lewis's first video spends the first 3 minutes explaining to us what the Legend of Zelda and cosplaying is. Then he sets up Freckled Zelda's turn towards Christian content and her disdain for anything she considers unchristian, like sex work. Lewis talks about the backlash from former friends who were burlesque dancers, as well as the general criticism of her Christian posts. Freckled Zelda was then responding with things like, "Only God can cancel me," and praying for people of other religions. 9 minutes in, over halfway, and I've learned barely anything that couldn't be summarized in 4 minutes. Thank God the video is padded out by Lewis repeating the same about how he was digging into the situation for research.
This is what constituted me diving deeper into her content and what people were saying about it. So I did some digging. Oh boy, did I do some digging. I did so much digging, and I found it. I had to go to the depths of Twitter into disgusting comment threads back to back to back until I finally found it. I found it.
Finally, we get to the real allegation.
Here I present to you the group chat messages. But first you gotta read it. This is a group chat, right? This is a group chat of people being very thirsty, very weird, very gross. This is terrible. It is people talking about how they're gonna do explicit things to each other. There are 2 members of this group chat who are 15 years old. 1, 5, 15. How old is Zelda? Oh, 21. Woo-hoo! Uh-oh. And you know what? I got a whole nother picture. Yeah, that's it right there. That's her sending explicit pictures to a 15-year-old. To 2 15-year-olds. Because they're both in the group chat. See that at the top there? Yeah, that's literally her group chat. What the hell, Zelda? How do people do this? All those people screaming at the top of their lungs saying that you're a terrible person, posting back-to-back videos about the terrible stuff you're doing because nobody can figure out about it. It's right here. Weirdo, stupid idiot. What the hell's wrong with you? Why would you do this? You know, I've covered a lot of people who have done terrible things, but I've never just had the direct proof. I honestly don't know what to do with myself other than say that this is terrible. You know, she kind of tried to cover it up too, and that's what makes it so much worse, right? She didn't even come out and say, people are trying to cancel me for this and this. Like, I probably wouldn't have looked so hard if she wasn't trying to cover it up so hard, right? I only dug so far into it because I didn't know what people were mad at her for. I'm still right here, about to cancel you. But the fact that you were doing this in a group chat with 15-year-olds is insane to me. How did you think you were gonna get away with this one? People were mad at you because you were grooming children. Definitely like tag her in my comment section. I want her to see this and like panic and stuff, you know?
Okay, wow, this is an incredibly serious allegation that's going on, and Lewis appears to have totally doubled and tripled down on this. Lewis is accusing this person of being a groomer, And hey, this image looks completely crazy. This video would do pretty well, getting Lewis 100,000 views and provoking more accusations from other people. Freckled Zelda was eventually forced to make a response to all these claims. But when it came to the specific claim of grooming, Freckled Zelda revealed something crucial. These censored pictures weren't nude.
Group chat was edited and blurred to make me look like I don't have clothes on to an anime convention, and I shared the photos of my new cosplay to this group chat. These are the original photos, a back picture of the bunny cosplay and a front picture of the cosplay with a cat sleeping on my lap. The narrative told was I explicitly sent pictures to a 15-year-old when I only shared cosplay pics to a group chat of 5 girls, including me. This group chat included 3 girls my same age that were my close friends at the time, and a 15-year-old girl I was not close with. I did not make this group chat, called Turkey Cemetery, and the group chat was not my idea.
You'd think this would be a tragic turn of events for Lewis's whole video. I mean, his big point of the video was wrong in a significant aspect. But instead, Lewis changes the perspective and acts like he never implied she sent nudes and only said they were explicit.
The only thing she proves in this video is that she didn't send nude photos to a 15-year-old. She proved nothing else. But guess what? First line of facts given to me by the glorious Ami is that they never, ever said that she sent nude photos. All they ever said, shown here and here, is that she sent explicit photos. Shown here is one of the people in that group chat saying, hey, we never said they were nude photos, we just said they were explicit. Shown here are the photos she talked about. Yes, those are very explicit.
Motherfucker, what do you think explicit means? Everyone who hears the word explicit in that context immediately thinks it's something that's way too sexually graphic. Definition of explicit, showing or talking about sex or violence in a very detailed way. No one tell this guy where the letter X in X-rated comes from. Rather than conceding that this isn't explicit, because it isn't, Lewis shifts the goalpost and changes his definition of explicit to things I wouldn't send to people under the age of 18.
Shown here are the photos she talked about. Yes, those are very explicit. I would never ever send anything like that in the vicinity of somebody under the age of 18.
Which, yes, you would probably not send this to people under the age of 18, but it's also not explicit. Let me ask you this, if you think this image is explicit, why are you showing the uncensored version to everyone? What was the point of the blurring if she had clothes on? It's obvious Lewis doesn't want to accept that he perpetuated a lie like this because it'd go against the grain of everyone who hates Freckled Zelda. He'll admit to f***ing up, but in a very sly way.
This is the second photo of that group chat. Yes, she used the other one to prove that she didn't send nude photos, which again, by the way, nobody ever claims she sent nude photos. People just misconstrued it, and I fell victim to that, obviously.
I hate this guy. Rather than holding his hands up and saying, oh, I messed up, my bad, he molds it into, I fell victim to that. Are we seriously saying that, after all your so-called rigorous research and digging into things? This guy was doing no digging. The only digging this guy was doing was in his ass. You can say that Lewis wasn't handling the situation directly, he didn't see the chats beforehand, but as a commentary channel, the type who wants to spread allegations, you've got to take responsibility when those allegations you're backing turn out to have flaws. The thing is, it doesn't even have to be a big grand apology. Assuming that Freckled Zelda knows the person is 15, something we'll get onto in a bit, this is still weird to send to them. You can still acknowledge that you spread misinformation and then make your point. In fact, you actually do so very early into the video with another lie that you spread.
The facts go as follows. She did distasteful conduct around a single 15-year-old. That is something I got wrong in my original video. It was only one. It was not multiple, more than one. It was only one 15-year-old. And it was a 15-year-old boy. I misgendered them. I assumed incorrectly.
Man, don't you just hate it when you accuse someone of being a groomer and then accidentally write in a second victim? I do that all the time, just random 15-year-olds cropping up out of nowhere like whack-a-mole. Now, whilst watching this whole video, I had a question on my mind. If this isn't Freckled Zelda's group chat, did she actually know if this person was 15 or not?
And again, the fact that there was a 15-year-old in there reading that, whom, again, here is proof that she knew that that person was underage.
How? If we read the DM, it says, Also, I added Mads, who is basically my little brother. Feral Furbies is Maddie, my sibling. Emma is our mutual friend who likes Garfield, and Zelda is Zelda. Nowhere in this screenshot is there any indication of the 15-year-old being actually 15. No mention of age, no mention of him even being a minor. Lewis is seriously arguing that the person calling him my little brother is an obvious indication that he's a minor. Now in the pinned comment, Lewis gives some more clarity on this point. He says, some important clarifications to this video. Freckles said she didn't know this child, but before the group chat was made, she had hung out with them and their sibling. This wasn't a stranger to her, and the entire reason this group chat was created was because they had hung out before, and he was a fan of hers at the time. This does not help my questions. First of all, there's no proof to support this, and secondly, the proof that you've shown directly contradicts this comment. If they had hung out before, and that was the sole reason they made the group chat, why would you have to introduce them in the first place? The DM says, also I added Mads, who is basically my little brother. Why would you have to explain who Mads is if the group chat was made solely because of them? Whilst we're on the subject, here's Lewis accusing Freckled Zelda of sending sexual art to another minor, with no added proof on whether they even are a minor, or if she even knew they were one.
And specifically, I DM'd her about a image that Ami shared with me of her having a conversation with another minor, unrelated to this entire situation, where she sent a picture, a lewd photo, if you ask me, of a bunch of links randomly to this person.
That 4 hours of research number is starting to become more and more believable.
Get wrecked, bozo.
This is the topic that Lewis got his career from, by the way. You don't have to like Freckled Zelda to see that Lewis's research here is god-awful, and he's just entirely dodging responsibility for his mistakes. When you claim that someone shared explicit photos to a minor, and go on a rant for the next 3 minutes about how they're a groomer, people will obviously think that those explicit photos were nude, especially with how the photos are censored. Pretending that people wouldn't think the same is completely delusional or willfully negligent. But hey, this is the same rhetoric that brought you calling the Manny Show a depraved degenerate over copyright striking people. The words depraved degenerate is something I'd probably use to describe a pedo, not a copyright striking Obviously, people are going to come to the conclusion from that title alone that he's some sort of sexual deviant. It's just completely manipulative. Now, I can't say for certain whether every single video Lewis has made suffers from the same issues. If I watched every single Lewis McClung video, I'd probably get a brain hemorrhage or something. What I can say is that if you're interested in a topic Lewis has covered, there's about a 50% chance you'll find a glaring mistake in his coverage. For example, let's take the topic I just covered, Cinny Bear. Lewis's video on the Cinny Bear and Buddy situation doesn't seem bad. I mean, the bar had been set incredibly low, and Cinny's response was an easy layup. But in one of his points, Lewis makes a really glaring mistake.
So Cinny released this video titled, I Am Sorry. It was just a black screen, 2 minutes of straight, I am a groomer. She admitted to being a groomer. What is she admitting to? Let me show you some screenshots. Let me flash them on screen. Basically, her being weird, taking the OC of this 14-year-old and drawing it with hers, and sexual mannerisms.
In case you're not aware, those are not the right screenshots. None of those were about Enno, the 14-year-old. This is actually about the situation prior. I understand that when looking into the situation, casual viewers would be confused. I mean, there's like 300 pages in total. But if you're a creator, you can tell very easily that both of these separate situations are labeled differently. One of them has an entire document dedicated to their DMs. This is a mistake I've not seen anyone else make covering this situation. To put this in context, even just a robots video doesn't make this mistake, and if I'm giving Jar props, you know you fucked up. This segment isn't to say that every mistake is inexcusable. I've made mistakes, you have, almost everyone has. It happens. But Lewis's mistakes aren't made from overlooking things. It's a pattern of diminished research and laziness coasting off popular opinion. This isn't some isolated slip. Many of Lewis's topics are safe, with obvious public opinions you can take. Lewis's DankyJabo video was the first real time he took a risk, and it wasn't a calculated one. His method of going about it was the same way he'd applied to multiple other situations. This wasn't a character flaw. This was his character. Only a couple of months after his video on DankyJabo, Lewis's career had been wiped off the map. The effects were visible from the huge drop in average views and loss of subscribers. Of course, Lewis knew this, hence why in some of his call-ins, he was repositioning for a redemption arc. But the problem is that when you want to have a redemption arc, you kinda have to start the redemption first. Lewis had apologized and definitely had some balls for confronting his critics head-on in a livestream, but the things he was apologizing for were just surface level. His coverage of drama didn't really change that much in sense of the levels of accuracy. In the middle of 2025, I'm Alex finally returned with a big response to his ex-girlfriend. Within this video, he takes the opportunity to defend DankyJabo from Lewis and Cataclysm, just to add another point against Alice Hez. Lewis would obviously cover Alex, though make no note of his comments on the situation he was directly involved in. But as I've said before, Lewis can take easy layups, bad responses that just give you the opportunity to dunk. Or so I thought, because instead of dismissing Alex's terrible response for what it was, Lewis decides to both sides the situation and is far softer on Alex. This is despite the insurmountable evidence that Alice Hez had already posted.
I don't want anybody to go hate in this video. My whole purpose of making this video is to show you how f***ing convoluted this is. It is messed up. It is complicated. There isn't much to go off of except for hearsay and word of mouth, except a video
Heresy!
of Alex saying he's gonna bash his girlfriend's head in with a brick. That's almost the only evidence we have that can be actually proven as important. The rest.
Lewis, you dumb bitch. Are you kidding me? In the Google Doc that Alice drops, there's like 5 videos, one of which is the brick comment, one is him following her around the apartment, screaming at her, calling her the N-word for like 20 minutes. There's the video of him where he called her and was sobbing like a schizophrenic maniac for well over a half an hour, and then there's 2 more videos of him like crashing the out too. Did you even read the Google document? It's like the first page.
They like his content, and a bunch of people will probably watch it. I guess it's good that we know that Alex said what he said, and he might have done more. But now we know too much about the relationship, and stuff like this isn't supposed to be public. And I don't know, I feel like it waters down domestic abuse cases, because they're real, they're bad, they happen all the time, every day.
This waters down domestic abuse cases? Bro, please.
Did Lewis just forget that Alice Hez already reported this to the police and only went public after they weren't going to pursue it? Ah yes, the casual everyday occurrence of threatening to smash your partner's head in with a brick.
Goddamn mess I've ever covered. Because what am I to say? What is anybody to say about this except for, yeah, Alex still sucks, and Alice probably does too in a different way. Like, oh,
why is he going in on her? This is insane. We're reading the comments after this. This is nuts, dude. I can't believe this.
Believing victims is a good thing, okay? And we should continue to do it. A lot of us just need more caution when we do it, okay? The reason everybody was so inclined to believe Alice is because of that video. That Alex in an hour and 50...
No, it's because she posted all the receipts. If somebody posted just that video, it's like, yeah, this looks terrible. Like, I completely agree, and f*** this guy for real. But she posted, like, a 180-page Google document with all of their conversations of him verbally abusing her, 5 different videos, and an audio clip of him groveling like a little crying bitch. That's what it was. I'm sorry that you are dumb as f***, and you have no idea how to make your own opinion without hearing everybody else in the room speak first.
Would you be shocked to find out that this whole both sides position was also something that a lot of the audience held coming away from I'm Alex's video? Lewis must have been enchanted by the jingling keys method that Alex used, flashing up the same 6 screenshots every 10 minutes. Lewis has pretty much been gone after his videos have tanked in views, with his last 2 videos not being able to break the 10,000 mark. Though he's cut his luscious locks and changed to talking about ideas more than specific trends or people, it's not been good. Lewis's most active platform is actually his book review channel of 100 subs. I can at least respect Lewis for how he stepped away and started doing other stuff. He could have just kept going until the sun went down, but the decision to cut your losses and focus on other interests is an ability I don't think a lot of people have, at least in my experience online. That being said, I think that Lewis is a terrible commentary channel. If you want someone to just reaffirm your opinion on a popular topic, he's alright at that. Sometimes, but the man cannot put together a cohesive original criticism or a hit piece to save his life. His points are terrible, his research is beyond awful in some instances. The guy's stint as a drama channel is pretty much over, because he spent ages tuning his every criticism to what he believed the popular opinion was, bringing out new criticisms just to try and reinforce that. And in the process, several people have been smeared. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay toasty.